What do you find as the biggest challenge with homeschooling for kids?
Biggest challenge homeschooling for kids. Great question. Time management. That's a lot of curriculum to get through, but they're all at different paces. So two are old enough. I have a sixth grader and a fourth grader. They're old enough to read instructions on their own and essentially do their schooling on their own, but attitudes don't always match their ability to get through it. Whereas my kindergartner and second grader can't read well enough to do their own directions. So they need me the most. So
Yeah.
the hardest part is just balancing getting it all done. But honestly, finding all four in school is easier than having a preschooler because the preschooler always felt left out and having to play on their own. So now that all four are in school, there's kind of a rhythm that we have as opposed to one just having to sort of be entertained on the side.
Okay. That's very cool. So how old are your kids, if you're okay with talking about that?
Yeah, so my oldest is 11, almost 12, and then a 9-year-old, 7-year-old, almost 8-year-old girl, and then my son, my last born, is 5. So 6th grade, 4th grade, 2nd grade, and kindergarten.
Yeah. How long does their school day last?
We are pretty much done by lunch. That's one of the best parts. If we start on time, usually it's an 8:30 a.m. start. A kindergartner's work takes an hour and a half at the most. It's really not long. And then the rest of the day is creative play, getting outside, being a kid. The 6th grader, it's really all the way up to lunch. Sometimes a little more if something was difficult or unfinished or we had an interruption of some kind. But essentially, we're done by lunchtime.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I remember back in kindergarten and even like elementary school, it felt like all we did was play and do stuff that wasn't education. And then for an hour we'd do education. And then after that, it's like you just go home. And so might as well just cut all that fun stuff out until after, get the education done, and then you can go on with your day. What do you guys normally do after school?
Good question. So there's always outside time, rain or shine. We try to get outside every single day, whether it's to walk the puppy, get some playtime, that kind of thing. We also have a designated rest time, about 45 minutes where they do audiobook, creative art. I leave open-ended crafts, puzzles out on the table, and they just get 45 minutes of quiet, mostly so I can get 45 minutes of quiet just to recharge. It's kind of a high-paced morning. So if we can all have a little individual quiet time, then it's free play for the afternoon. So again, we might go somewhere, run an errand. Otherwise, it's their chance to pursue their interests or if they're in a sport or something like that.
What kind of audiobooks do they listen to?
Oh, goodness. All kinds of stuff. Joy, my almost 10-year-old, probably listened to the Chronicles of Narnia a dozen times. So she has that memorized. And the Wing Feather Saga. I don't know if you've heard of that. Andrew Peterson's books. They're epics, kind of like Narnia, but they were written only a few years ago. So she loves the epics, the drama. They've got the monsters. They've got kind of the big themes to them, big lessons. Caleb loves listening right now to Cars, so Pixar's Cars. They have all of the major movies on audiobook, and then everything in between. They love all of it. The Vanderbeekers, some of kind of the classic series that girls like, they're all on there.
Do you ever have them watch old Disney movies, like the originals, like Peter Pan, Sleeping Beauty, stuff like that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We don't do many movies at our house. We have Friday night movie night where we kind of rotate who gets to pick the movie, and that's pretty much what we save for our screen time. But honestly, those villains are scary. I don't know how you felt about Disney movies as a kid, but those villains are legit. Like, we're not even quite able to handle them yet. So we're still in like the fast forward. Some of them, Sleeping Beauty, what's her name?
Maleficent, right?
Yes, horrifying. There's a bunch of them. So we're kind of still warming up to villains.
Yeah. Cars is such a great movie, especially for Caleb. It's perfect for him. That movie is so good. Even now, it's just so good. Do you worry about your kids being under socialized?
I love that question. It's my favorite question to answer. And I'll start it by asking you a question. Now that you're an adult living normally day to day, How often are you with people your exact age for the majority of the day?
Nah, almost never.
Right. So when you think about true socialization, it requires being around a variety of ages all the time and also practicing being not around people for a majority of the time and seeing what that feels like. So, I guess my question is it truly socialization to put kids with kids their exact age in a small room for 8+ hours a day? Is that true socialization, or is true socialization being around varied ages and learning how to cope, whether they're with people that are older or younger than them? So I guess as from a homeschooling perspective, I found that my kids know how to be around adults with no other kids around. They also know how to treat toddlers and babies in a helpful, kind way. And it's proved really beneficial. So my hope for them is that they don't have the shock that I did after college, when from age 6 weeks on, when I was in daycare, through college around peers, I was shocked to all of a sudden have no peers around. It's like, what is my life? I don't have friends. Where did they all go? I was used to sort of being thrown into a pool of people my age. Where'd they all go? And it was lonely and it was shocking. I don't know if you experienced any of that, but for my kids, they know how to do a whole day at home if we have nothing going on. They have interests, they have each other, but then they also know how to be in a grocery store and handle themselves with adults and navigate that. Just to prove the point, I started a YMCA homeschool program so that kids who are homeschooled can come together of all ages and do programs during the day. So we have a PE class every Thursday where they're doing all sorts of physical challenges. And what's awesome is kids from age 5 to 13 can be in the class. Now, you would never see that in a normal school setting. Throw in the kindergarten with like a middle schooler. I mean, they would annihilate each other. The beautiful thing about this group is they all cooperate so well. We've gotten crazy comments from the directors because they know how to treat the youngest and everyone in between. That to me is true socialization, knowing how to work with anybody, everybody, or nobody, and being able to handle yourself.
Yeah, that's a good way of seeing it. It's such a like a stereotype that like homeschooled kids are weird and awkward and they don't. But I guess you kind of supplement it with church. So your kids are around kids around their age in church, and since they have each other. So I'm sure it'd be quite different if you had one kid that you homeschooled, didn't go to church, and they never were around kids their age.
Right. Well, and just like anybody else, did you ever meet weird kids in public school? I mean,
Yeah.
I sure did. There were some real strange creatures, but on the same front, you can find some really weird homeschoolers who do isolate. So no matter your choice, it's kind of how you approach it as a parent.
Yeah. I don't know. I see both sides of it, though, because I definitely felt that shock when getting out of high school, especially because I didn't go to college. And so I'm just like, okay, well, I see maybe 3 or 4 friends from high school. I see them once a week, if that. Other than that, I don't see anyone. And I talk to my friends a lot about that when it comes to like dating. It was so easy in high school because you're surrounded by girls 24/7, like 365 days of the year, and so it's super easy to find someone. But now it's like, I don't know. You kind of have to put yourself out there more instead of being forced into it by school, especially at school when everyone's bored and they're just, looking to have fun. So,
Right.
yeah.
100%.
Yeah. How do you find the balance? Honestly, this is a good question considering you were talking about the villains being too much. How do you find the balance between keeping your kids safe and showing them how the world is?
Great question. In general, as a society, it really seems like we overprotect our kids from real world, but underprotect in the tech world. So, give you some examples. You'll see every kid wearing a bike helmet or not being allowed to walk to the park with their friends, or maybe even get roughed up in sports. Normal kind of, or even playground rules right now at schools are crazy. Recently, I heard of a school where for the monkey bars, you had to go in one direction, so none of this back and forth, and you had to go bar by bar. Don't skip the bars with your hands. No hanging upside down, one kid at a time. I mean, To me, that's ludicrous. The whole idea with playground equipment is that it's open-ended. You take risks. Go ahead and hang upside down. I can't tell you how many times I lost the wind, from getting like nailed in the abdomen from that. So we're overprotecting in those real world scenarios, even failure, right? Not every kid deserves the gold medal because you're in the sport. Save it for the kids who won, and let's learn some failure. Anyways, overprotecting in that, but underprotecting in tech. We're handing second graders cell phones with internet and social media. That's the kind of stuff that's going to kill this next generation. And it's showing in the levels of anxiety, depression, and not getting outside and taking real world risk. And that's where childhood magic is found, in that real world stuff. So no, I don't want to protect them from real world stuff. We're in sports. We get out in the community. We make messes. We fail. But we try to do it in a context where the parents are on the forefront of seeing it and helping them succeed through it. It doesn't have to be purely through peers 10 hours a day. But yeah, we're definitely being a lot more careful in the media front of things, which might be hard in the years to come. I've got a budding teenager, but no way she's getting a phone till she's driving. So
Till she's 16?
Yeah. And if there is a phone, I mean, she has a Gab watch right now, which has no internet, but she can text up to 5 people. So right now it's just parents and a few others in case she is out and about without us, which isn't often. She's only 11. But that will kind of increase. But there's no need for social media. There's no need for internet until a long ways from now.
Yeah, I mean, even then, there's really no need at all. The socialization of social media, like people think that, if you don't have social media, you're weird. But I know a lot of people that don't have it, and they're generally a lot more happy than most people.
Yeah, 100%. I quit all social media about 3 months ago, and I love it. All I was on was Facebook, by the way. It was very minimal, but it still felt like a monkey on my back that wanted attention constantly. I just kicked that sucker off. It's been awesome. No one cares about my posts. Who cares? So get off it.
Yeah, I totally get it though. Yeah. I'm on YouTube. I can't escape it now because of the podcast, but I guess I could. What you mentioned failure. Why should we not hand out trophies for last place?
Because you didn't win. And unless we're allowed to fail safely and graciously, where's the incentive to work hard? Where's the incentive to pick up the pieces of feeling broken and defeated and overcome? It's just not true to real life. We're going to fail in real life, whether it's failing to budget properly and you find yourself in debt, whether you failed in a relationship, whether you failed at a job, mismanaged something. Being an adult, a big part of maturity is learning to overcome failure. Often a great quote is, a great way to get to success, or the back door to success, is often failure. Let's introduce that young in a way that's healthy and helpful to kids.
What do you say to a kid when they fail?
I think it depends on what the failure is. So let's make up a scenario here. If one of my kids does not do well on a math assessment, it just didn't go well. We talk about it. Why did that happen? How did that happen? Reassure them that their worth and value is not in their performance, it's in who they are and what their response is to that failure. And we try again.
Yeah. How did you find the quality of education with homeschooling compared to public school?
Great question. So I was in the public school as a teacher. I was a music teacher for the years before I had kids. And then of course, like I said before, I was put in daycare at age 6 weeks old, and I was in the public school and after school care all the way through. So my entire life was in the public system. I liked school because I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional and abusive home. So to me, school was a bit of a refuge. For that reason, I will never say homeschooling is for everyone or public school is bad. That's just not true. Everyone's story is a little bit different. For me, that included finding those rhythms and those good relationships at school. Getting back to your question, though, what was the question? Oh, the quality of education.
Yeah, the quality.
Yeah. I find that it is what you make it. I'm sure there are parents, and I've heard of homeschool parents who do this whole unschooling. I'm not going to do anything formal. Let's just run around the fields and observe the bumblebees, and that's our school. Okay. I like a little more structure than that. We do take standardized tests at the end of each year to assess where we are, where they are at grade level. We do follow an actual curriculum, which is great. But the beauty of it is that, and stats will show you this, that any human being, kid up to adult, learns the best when they're not under stress. So when you picture being forced to wake up early, catch a bus, maybe or maybe not eat breakfast, there's constant noise and chaos in the classroom, in the hallways. You have to wait your turn, raise your hand, whatever it is. Is that the best environment to actually learn, to get deep into something? Whereas if home is loving and caring, I can let my kids sleep longer. They can get a homemade breakfast that's not rushed. They have ample time to play. I find that they absorb and soak in their material really, really well. And we can create the memories as a family. That's the best part. We can make the lava experiment with baking soda and vinegar and just have a great time doing it. Tomorrow, for example, we're going to the beach. It's going to be almost 80 degrees in October. My two oldest are studying marine biology, so we're going to go explore some of the tide pools. And we get to do that on a Monday through homeschooling. So I find it's great. And it's something they'll hopefully remember forever.
Yeah. And it's also not so cookie cutter. That was my biggest issue with high school. Well, I guess all of school, but in high school, like, I don't learn well from just listening to someone talk. I need to be doing it. Like, I need to be doing the homework was good for me, although school was different for me because I was very lazy in school, so I didn't really even do my homework, at least in high school. But that's how I learn, especially with everything. With this podcast, I get better just the more I do it. And with all the bikes, I know a lot more about motorcycles now that I'm around them more. And a lot of people are like that. And a lot of people are like the opposite, where they like listening to someone write on a chalkboard and talk.
And unfortunately, that typically is how boys learn better, by doing. And honestly, I think a lot of boys are frustrated or mislabeled as ADD, ADHD, hyperactive, when truly they're just boys. They need to move, they need to do, and that's not wrong. It's how they're made. So in many ways, the sitting at a desk, holding a pencil, listening and writing is primarily female. And it's not fair. Like you said, it's not cookie cutter. We can't take every kid and say, sit there, do this in this order. And if you're not, something's wrong with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does suck in the fact that homeschooling isn't a possibility for everyone. Most people can't do it, even if they wanted to.
It's true. It's a juggle. But there are amazing options out there right now. I mean, I'm even working part-time. Altogether, my husband and I have 3 jobs between us, and it's working. There are parents who work full-time who can do it. It depends on you finding your hours, finding the support system around you, finding a curriculum that works. There's a great program in several states now called KaiPod, where kids go to a safe learning environment. They bring their curriculum from home, whether it's on a computer, online learning, or written, and they're with coaches, most of whom were former teachers in the public school, and they do their work there with up to 12 students, kind of like a one-room schoolhouse feel, where kids from all ages come, do their work. Their parents might be working or elsewhere, and they can go and the parents still are aware of what they're learning in a safe environment. So really, since COVID, I think especially, these kind of hybrid options are coming up, because the stay-at-home mom who can do all that full-time is becoming more and more rare.
Do you get overwhelmed?
Every day.
How do you deal with it?
Every morning when I'm not at work, I'm a fitness coach 3 mornings a week, so I have to get up at 3:50 a.m. and teach the first few classes. So on not those mornings, but every other morning, starting the day in God's word. I'm a believer. I love God so much, and unless I'm devoting that first hour in silence and solitude and with Him, I really have not much to offer. And then I exercise pretty rigorously. most mornings of the week. And that's just a great way to put on my own oxygen mask, like they tell you to do in the airplanes, put on your own oxygen mask before assisting someone else.
Mm.
As a parent, you need your own oxygen mask. And that sounds selfish at first, but it's the best way I can love my kids. If I roll out of bed when they do, didn't get that coffee, didn't get that quiet, I am a crank. And most people will find that that's true. So making sure I prioritize that health so I can give them my first and my best is great. The other thing is that quiet time I mentioned in the afternoon. We all need a break. We just need a break. And that's really helpful too. And then just, I love my kids. Like they're my sunshine. So I'd be so sad to not see them every day. I love being on the front line of their learning and their life. I can't get these years back.
What do you do for training in the morning?
Oh, like for working out?
Yeah.
I'm typically like a T25 person, so mostly because they're 25 minutes, and it's high intensity interval training, so the hit style stuff. So a lot of body weight movements, high reps, low weights, plyometrics. So there's a lot of jumping. We also have a Peloton, so we like ride the bike. I love to run. So when it's nice enough out, I'll do a quick 5K and then do some weightlifting and stuff.
Quick 5K.
A quick 5K.
Okay.
It's not that bad. A little over 3 miles.
Yeah,
But-
not for you. Yeah. I'd pass out.
No, you would not. It is fun. It's good. It's helpful. It gets out all the whatever
Yeah.
negative energy.
Yeah. I hear a lot of people preach about running, about how meditative it is. Yeah, I've tried it. I'm good. How do you parent your daughters differently from your son?
Ooh, good question. I'm still figuring that out because my son's only 5. But from the moment he was born, he was distinctly masculine. He was looking out the window when the trash truck came and pointing at it. He would lay on his belly as a toddler and roll wheels. And I would offer trucks to the girls. It wasn't like I saved it for them, but they did not respond the same way. He is inherently wanting to figure things out and touch more. So I've really enjoyed just giving him those opportunities to be fully boy. The other thing I think that's different is just the emotional piece. Girls, as I'm sure you know, are pretty emotional. They don't get over things very fast. So whereas Caleb already, he'll get pretty mad or upset if he gets hurt or feels mistreated. He'll get over it in like 2 seconds, move on. The girls, not so much. So that's just taking a little while to figure out how to care for their hearts. It looks a little bit different. Otherwise, we're all kind of in the same. They're all expected to do chores. They're all expected to eat what's on their plate. They're all expected to be kind, not hit each other.
Mm. How did having kids change you?
Man, how did it not? Honestly, I call becoming a mom a death in the best way. I died the day my oldest was born and became a mom. And it's like there was no more room for selfishness. There was no more room putting me first. But I'll tell you what, I remember, especially with that first one, when it was so hard. I had never lost sleep before. She didn't sleep through the night for at least 6 months. I was so tired and broken. My body was all messed up. But I had never smiled so much in my life. And also, I had never looked in the mirror so little. And there was a freedom to that, to loving somebody so much that I didn't matter as much in a good way. I loved Scott. I married my husband. We obviously were very much in love, but there was something different about a child who couldn't give you anything back. In fact, they almost took things from me.
Oh, yeah.
But the love was just, and still is, unparalleled. It truly feels like my heart now lives outside of my body. It's the most amazing thing. I would always recommend to anyone who has a good relationship, have your babies early and have a lot of them, because it is the best. It is just the best.
Jordan Peterson says that you don't truly grow up until you have kids, because you only grow up when you have something that you love more than yourself. Do you agree with that?
It's true for me. It's true for me. But there are plenty of parents out there, God bless them, but mine included. Like I said, I grew up in some abuse, still can do that. But a lot of that abuse, like you said, stemmed from the fact that whatever else was going on in their lives trumped the kids. And that's when kids feel it. But for me, man, um, forgetting oneself and being lost in the care of someone else is probably the most freeing, maturing thing I've ever been a part of.
What about people that don't want to have kids?
I don't understand it. I mean, from the minute I could talk, my earliest memories are of holding a doll and pretending to be a mom. That's been something that has always been on my mind. I've written down names. I was born wanting to be a mom. So I think I'd want to know why. Where does that come from? I understand the fears, especially of physically giving birth, how traumatizing that is. And for those that can't, all of the complications that go with that. But I think I would want to know a little bit more of why. Why would that be for someone? Because it really is amazing.
Yeah, the same guy, Jordan Peterson, says that there's kind of like 3/3 to your life. There's like your career is 1/3, your partner is 1/3, or your relationship with your partner is 1/3, and then your kids are kind of 1/3. And all those things, it's like, well, if you don't have kids, you better have a great career. Like it better fulfill you, or you better have an amazing relationship that fulfills you enough to kind of fill the void that kids would fill normally.
Or just building into someone. I mean, because not everyone can. Or maybe you never get married, or there's an issue, or you were married and they died. There's always a generation after you that can be built into. Always. Even if it ends up being nieces and nephews. Kids who come to after school programs who need those mentors, those being a coach. There are countless ways to invest in the next generation, even if they're not your own biological kids. I mean, that's always a fulfilling thing to do in life, no matter your stage in life, too.
How do you find your person?
How do you find your person?
I know you and Scott kind of had it probably different than most people, but everyone's different than most people, so.
How do you find your person? Are you asking me this like from a Christian perspective or from any perspective?
Take it as you please.
Take it as you please. Yeah. It's interesting because I can only really come at this from my experience, especially, like I said, as a believer. Just like I'd always wanted to be a mom, I also knew that the first thing was to be a wife. So that's something I had desired my whole life. I chose not to date through high school because why would I waste my time doing that when that's someone I would never marry? You get weird entanglements and end up with regrets. There's just no point in that. So I had a lot of guy friends. And in college, that's when I said, all right, green light, time to find that dude. Let's go. And I ended up really liking several solid guys. They were all Christians like me. And for whatever reason, time and time again, there were probably 4 of them that never reciprocated that. And it was pretty devastating. It was kind of like, all right, something must be massively wrong with me. In the meanwhile, really loved God, pursued my relationship with him, prioritized that, and just spent a lot of time in prayer. So first piece is like, pray about it. It's like that always has to be it. The other great piece of advice that I've always heard and will always repeat is run in the direction you're going. Instead of being so busy looking to the right or to the left for that person, run in the direction in life that you're passionate about, and eventually you'll look next to you and someone's running in that same direction. Who's running next to you? So if you are all about your walk with God, you are all about whatever it might be, stay hard on that, and then eventually look to your right or left and they'll be there running right along with you. That's probably the number one thing. The other piece of advice I would say is it's pretty eye-opening to make a list of your non-negotiables on that person, an actual list. And it might even seem shallow, some of the things you might write down. Example, the first guy I dated in college that actually, seemed like a go, I dated for 2 weeks and that was it. And the reason being is the first time we had a meal together, he looked at it might have been broccoli or salad or something on my plate and said, ew, and proceeded to tell me he hated vegetables. And I kid you not, I broke up with him. And I decided, listen, that might not be a big deal to anybody, but my dad died at age 56 from heart failure, diabetes, all this junk with his health that could have been prevented. And it's a huge deal to me to have married a guy that cared about his health. I'm not saying be a bodybuilder and eat greens all day, but to give a rip about his health. And if someone downplayed my broccoli, I already knew that was a no-go. So on my list was, you're eating vegetables. It's just what it is. Don't complain about it. Then of course, there are the deeper things. Like the person I was after had to love Jesus first, 200%. Things like that. So, and the cool thing about making a list is that is then a mirror on myself. If I want someone who's honest, am I honest? If I want someone who's good at budgeting and good with money, am I good with money? So take that list and then mimic it so that you can be that person first and bring that to the table for whatever relationship comes your way, if that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about that?
I've actually done that. I have.
What's one of your like nitpicky, silly things like my broccoli issue?
I don't know if I've gotten that deep into it, but one that definitely felt shallow is just like the looks part. Like I do care about looks, and yeah, it feels shallow, but you're right. I don't know, just preference.
I don't think that's shallow. If you're going to be with that person forever, they got to make your heart beat a little bit.
Yeah. One thing that maybe I would say is a non-negotiable for me is I don't want my person to act differently around other people, around different people. Because there's a lot of people that do that, and I used to do that, and it's just, I don't know, this is like nothing worse than that. It's like you're trying to be someone else so other people like you, but they don't really like you. They like the person that you're pretending to be, and
100%. It's another good reason to date in a group, meaning you can find someone you have chemistry with and then spend way too much time one-on-one. And then that person will be who they want with you. But then, like you said, be someone else entirely with a different group. So like when Scott and I dated, we were essentially good friends for 9 months before we made it official, whatever you call it now. But
Yep.
The entire 9 months, we didn't have any one-on-one time except for him walking me back to my housing. And part of that was because he got to observe me in a group and I observed him with his friends. And he was the same, no matter where he was. And that, like you said, just created a lot of trust. So that when we were one-on-one, I knew what to expect.
Yeah. How can girls reciprocate in a world where men are kind of scared to go up to girls and they're scared to make moves and talk to girls? How can a girl kind of reciprocate the energy and kind of give the go, you know?
I'm so old now, Joey, that what I don't understand is like the texting world, because texting didn't exist in college. So to me, it's hard to imagine not having an actual verbal, like guy being bold moment, being like, hey, I really like you and I think we have some possibilities here. Can I take you out? I'd love to hear more about who you are and if there's a shot here. Is that even done anymore? Like that's kind of what I want to know. Or is it all electronic?
It's basically all online. I think it still happens. It does still happen, but one thing that I'm not sure you would realize is that men, like, they're kind of scared now because of all the allegations and just like being embarrassed. Like, say you go up to a girl and tell her that you think she's pretty and you want to like get her number, and then you get rejected. But you not only get rejected, you get made fun of online for it. So I think that's where a lot of the fear stems from. And so I get it. Men need to be more bold. I totally agree with that. But it's also they have a reason to be scared about it. A genuine reason.
Yeah. I mean, that stinks. It's awful. I just know that at the deepest heart, the deepest female heart, we want to be pursued. We want to be pursued hard. So that means getting bold, because I would want to marry somebody who's willing to stick out their neck for me. And I would recommend in person always. And even to take rejection like a man. And you know what? I bet that even because of that boldness, and if you continue to be bold and continue to be around this person and show them what you're about, who you are, you're just going to be attractive. I don't know how else to put it. But I cannot imagine ever wanting to respond to someone who's just texting me about it. I want to see eyes and a face and, frankly, a little vulnerability. It's attractive.
Mm-hmm. What's the hardest thing about being a pastor's wife?
Oh, you're turning the corner now.
Oh, we're going into that end of it.
Oh man, you're asking a lot of questions.
That's my job.
It is your job. It's kind of funny because when people say, "What's it like being a pastor's wife?" my favorite response is, "I have no idea. I just know what it's like to be Scott's wife." So it's a job. There's lots of jobs out there. There are unique hurdles, heartaches, and benefits to being in ministry. So I can really only speak from my experience. I love being married to my husband. I think he's a phenomenal pastor. We have a great marriage. But in terms of ministry, there have been a lot of moments of significant hurt with people at church who've left or who have spoken ill about him when me and other people are on the front lines of who he actually is and his character. And it just really, really hurts to see him hurt. So that by far is probably the hardest part. I think there's also a level of loneliness in leadership. And I'm sure no matter your occupation, if you're a leader of something, you will be a little bit lonely. There's going to be a level at which people don't understand the load that you carry simply because you're a leader. So navigating friendships in church world is hard when you're the leader because you just never know how long people will last. So probably that. Just some of the hurt is probably the hardest part.
What was it like when you guys started the church?
It was insane. I was pregnant with my third kid, and she was born less than 3 months than when the church's opening day came. Scott got all of like 2 days off. So I was kind of back at it instantly. It was just all hands on deck. I remember having 3 very little ones, including an infant, and I was running the soundboard in the back. There was no one else. And so I would literally nurse the baby and hand her off and keep running the soundboard or do it at the same time. It was crazy. So life was insane. I don't even know how we survived that, to be honest with you. I was drowning in early motherhood, but loving it. And Scott was in over his head on becoming a new leader of a new church and just going for it. So it really was crazy living on a shoestring budget and just making it work.
Did you ever feel like stopping, giving up?
Yeah, we probably had 2 significant moments, not at the beginning, but about 1.5 years in, and then actually just recently over the summer, some pretty significant hurt from people we had trusted. Has happened twice in the 8-year life of our church. So yeah, there have been minutes where we've wanted to just say, there's got to be a better way. I mean, we don't even earn a big enough paycheck to get this kind of abuse. So it really is. There have been moments, but here's the thing. We're in it until God says to go. So, and our conscience is clear. We love our people, and we'll just keep moving until he says you're done.
I was talking to Scott the other day, and he mentioned that as a pastor, being around other believers is sometimes more stressful than being around non-believers, because the believers kind of have an expectation of like, well, yes, you're our leader, therefore you need to live up to this standard that we have in our minds. And it's like, well, we're just members of the church. We're not perfect. Everyone knows that. But you're the pastor. Do you feel that pressure at all?
Oh, 100%. And I don't think I would have believed it until I saw it in real life. I mean, just to speak to recent events, of course, I would never give details, but years, tears investment spent over people. I mean, even recently, just walking through difficult times with them, praying, supporting, and it feels like you cross one person one time and they're gone. There's something about, like I said, that loneliness of leadership where even if it's perceived, it's not even true. The refusal to have an actual face-to-face conversation and work it out and desire to work it out just isn't there. And that's devastating, especially when it feels like there's been years of investment, years of prayer, years of choosing to care for people who then will turn their back in half a second without even looking back or thinking we're human. That part's really, really hard.
Yeah. There's an idea online that mostly for like big people online where you don't really get credit for the things that you don't do, but you only get credit for the bad things that you do. And I'm sure it's the same sort of thing in leadership where you can do all these good things for people and be there for them, and then you're right, you cross them once or even perceived, and that's the only time that matters, apparently. And it's
Right.
like that idea where you know who Mr. Beast is?
No.
That's kind of funny. Well, you are not on social media, I guess. He like basically started a YouTube channel when he was like 12. He's like 24 now, but he's got hundreds of millions of subscribers, the most, that farther than everyone by far. But he does a lot of charity and stuff, and people will always give him crap because he spent millions and millions of dollars helping these blind people see again. And people are like, "Oh, you're just doing that to look good on the internet." And it's like, okay, well, would you rather him not do it? And it's the same sort of thing for, I mean, it's different because online it's like, it's brutal. You get criticized for everything that you do, even the good stuff. And then I'm sure that's the same with leadership, especially in a church. Yeah, Christians are brutal to each other.
It's so true. I honestly thought since we were starting a church that the hard part would be reaching people who had no interest in God or had no background in faith. But that's been the fun part, is engaging with people who just have no idea or who've come from hurt. It's been the Christians who have a lot of expectations and usually have had a series of fallouts in other churches who've been the most brutal and difficult to work with. So couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Do you, well, oh, do you think you put yourself in a sort of sheltered place being around Christians all the time?
Kind
Or
of like choosing to protect myself.
maybe not choosing to, and maybe not protecting, but more of like, do you think you're in a bubble because you're around people that believe what you believe all the time?
No. Like I said, I have got a part-time job, so that's been a really cool way to be around people of all different backgrounds, at least 12 hours a week. And then, of course, there's just my neighborhood and everyday life. We're out and about a lot. So I don't insulate that way. In fact, even in church, one of my favorite groups to lead is called Alpha, and that's specifically for people who either have no faith background, have a lot of questions, come from some mess. So, no. In fact, I start to get really uncomfortable if there's too much bubble. It's a little too creepy. So I love being reminded of real life and why on earth we would start a church in the first place. It's for the people who have no idea who God is and about his love for them. So my time as a coach right now is so rad for that reason. Just meet all kinds of people. I can cheer them on in the gym, but also be praying for them and they don't even know it. And I want to be one of the best parts of their week, so that maybe eventually we can start having some conversations outside of the gym about, why I'm a happy, positive person. And it has a lot more to do than exercise. So yeah.
What do you like about groups so much? Church groups.
Actually, you want to know the blatant truth? Groups are my least favorite thing in
Really?
church. Yes. That's just like getting raw. And here's why. It's the numbers. I either like the big crowd, like when I'm singing or whatever, or one-on-one. That is like a sweet spot for me. But when there's like 8 to 10, I find that really not natural to know how to navigate, because it's not one-on-one, but it's also not a huge crowd. So to me, those are kind of draining environments. I like them and I know that they're necessary, but it takes a lot of effort to make sure they're run well. That's why I don't usually lead them. I let Scott do it most of the time.
Yeah.
But I find it just a hard number. I don't know. Maybe I'm just awkward.
It could just be you. No, not in a bad way. It's just preference. Like I agree. I like the one-on-one a lot. I don't like the crowds. I would not be able to do what you do up there every week. It's impressive. Honestly, I was surprised when you said that you were a little anxious doing this because I don't know, you're up on stage playing guitar and singing every week in front of how many people? Close to 100 probably.
150
Maybe more?
plus,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's different because when you're up there and the lights are on your face, it's actually completely dark. I barely see other people. And it's easier to play for that many than to sit in a living room, and like that would be terrifying to just sit in front of one or two people in a living room and sing a song and play. It just feels really vulnerable.
But you don't feel vulnerable being in front of that
I mean,
many
I
people.
do. I'm also just used to it. I don't know.
So you're anxious going up there every week?
Yeah, a little bit. There's always some jitters.
Yeah. What are your top 3 Christian songs, or maybe your favorite songs to play and sing?
That rotates for sure. That rotates. Oh man, I'm so bad being put on the spot with songs. And then of course I'm not going to remember the name at the moment. You might have to come back to that one.
That's okay. As you mentioned, the 2 times that you said you felt like quitting, running the church. Well, you and Scott running the church. It had a lot to do with people that were very close to you, attacking you personally and online and stuff like that. Which brings me to the subject of loyalty. What do you think loyalty is?
I would hope loyalty is sticking it out thick or thin. And it's not loyal for the sake of being loyal where you deny hurt or you deny areas of growth in a relationship, or if you're loyal to something, but it's seeing it through. So it's not a sense of cover it up or ignore it or let bitterness build in a relationship, but loyalty is seeing that bigger importance of unity, why that matters, and just working it out, kind of refusing to give in to cancel culture, that thing like we were talking about where you cross me once, we're done. It's like you don't exist. Bye. So it's probably the best definition. It's sticking it out thick or thin. I mean, that's really what marriage is. That's what God does for us. He doesn't just peace out when things get hard. There's a stick to it and work things out.
Do people misuse it?
Misuse loyalty? I think because we're all damaged, flawed human beings, that can happen, but I'm guessing it would be subconscious. We have had experiences with folks who appear extremely loyal and maybe overly generous. Maybe they'll overly text or even overly compliment. And we've learned to put a yellow or red flag on those people. And it's not because we're trying to be mean, but you can sniff out those who want to butter you up because they want influence or power or control. And so, yeah, I suppose you can misuse it. But, that can happen even in your stage of life, or if someone wants to get your attention, like a female, and it ends up being just manipulative, trying to get your attention, and it looks like loyalty, but it isn't. It's just a form of control. I don't know.
I wrote, people expect loyalty as you will back me up no matter what I do, when realistically it should be you will have my back no matter what happens to me. So that's what I think people misuse loyalty. They're like, you call out a friend for something they do wrong, and it's like, well, you should be backing me up here. you should be on my side. But I don't know. I personally think that being loyal to someone would be calling them out on what they're doing, and so they can improve, make their life better.
Right.
But
Agree.
yeah, loyalty is it's such a weird thing to me because I see the value in it, but I think it's misused quite a bit, especially especially at my age, where it's all about loyalty.
Mm.
It's like, well, I don't disagree that loyalty can be a good thing, but when you're loyal to the wrong people, if you're being loyal in the wrong way, it actually can be a very negative thing for a lot of people, including yourself and for the people you're being loyal to.
It's true. And I can't help but wonder, maybe you agree or disagree with this, but as a culture, and you can see this even in the politics of our day, we have no idea how to disagree and still be civil or even still be friends. It's unbelievable. It's like if we disagree on something or don't live the same lifestyle down to the T, somehow we are now enemies, shun, cancel, conversation's over. Whereas I love how you said it. The loyalty is to you as a human being, fellow human being, and I want to see you grow and improve. So I will say something if I see you harming yourself or others, just like I would hope you would do the same for me. That's mutual loyalty. It's not I'm with you and we're good until you cross me.
Yeah, the politics is such a great way to talk about loyalty because, if you're a conservative and you disagree with one thing on the right, then you're no longer part of the group. And they're like, you're not loyal to us. You're not part of us. But, realistically, you're just having an open mind and you just have different opinions. And so politics is definitely one of those aspects where loyalty is misused.
100%.
Probably the biggest part of society where it's misused. What are you most proud of?
Proud of? I'm very proud of my kids. So that's probably any mom. I mean, they're just so cute and sweet most of the time. What am I proud of? I mean, I hesitate to even answer because that makes it sound like, hey, look at me, great job. So I'll twist the question a little bit and say, what brings delight and joy and fulfillment. So right now, it's always been my kids, and my relationship with God and my husband. But frankly, I'm loving this whole Orange Theory Fitness coach thing. It has been so fun and so unexpected. As a 37-year-old mom, to be in a gym, like kicking butt with people is just really, really fun. So it's hit at a time in life that I needed something outside of home and church. And not just for the money, but to just see a different side of myself come out. So honestly, it's just been really fun. Focus on other people, get super excited. I play DJ there in the mornings. I'm cranking tunes. If I have an older crowd, I crank 80s classic rock and just like have at it. It's just been really, really fun. So probably that.
Are you happy?
Yeah, extremely.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good.
Most days.
Yeah,
we all have our moments, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for joining me.
Of course.
I appreciate it. You and Scott have been very welcoming to my family, and I need to make sure I don't miss anything. And you guys are very humble. And in a world where Christians can be a little over the top, you guys are normal in the best way possible. And so we very much appreciate that. You are very wise, and Scott is too, especially for your age. And I appreciate your opinions. I appreciate your judgment, and I hope you have a great life.
Oh man, you too. Well, hey, you're not going anywhere, so
well, yes,
see you around town.
Yes, but we're leaving them, so. All righty. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed, please consider liking the video and subscribing if you haven't already. And with that, I will leave you with Isaiah 55, 1-3. Come, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters. And he who has no money, come buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money and without price. Why do you spend your money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which does not satisfy? Listen diligently to me, and eat what is good, and delight yourselves in rich food. Incline your ear and come to me. Hear that your soul may live. Thank you.